I watched my whole family board. First class without me. Then they asked me to pay their mortgage. They laughed as I stood alone in the economy line, pretending I didn't exist. 2 weeks later, they were begging for help to save their house. That was the moment I stopped being their backup plan and started being free. If you've ever felt used by the people closest to you, hit like, share your story in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful Reddit stories. Hi, I'm Daniel, 34, certified reliable sibling and lifelong human safety net, until the day I decided I was done being everyone's backup plan. I didn't snap at a family dinner. I didn't write some long, emotional message or post a cryptic quote online. No. It all started when I saw my sister's kids boarding first class. I was at the airport, passport in one hand, espresso in the other, buzzing with excitement for my long-awaited, entirely self-funded trip to Italy. Years of saying maybe next year had finally paid off. I was seconds away from boarding when I heard a familiar voice. "No, Liam, you don't need the tablet now. The seats have TVs." My stomach sank. There she was. Sarah, my sister, with her 2 kids, her husband, and our parents. Our broke parents. The ones who had told me just 2 months earlier. "We really wish we could take you on a family trip, Danny, but we're just not in a good place financially right now." They were all dressed like a vacation catalog threw up on them. Coordinated outfits, shiny new luggage. My dad even had one of those goofy neck pillows already strapped on. But what got me, what actually made my ears ring, was what my mom said next. "I still feel bad we couldn't take Danny," Sarah snorted. "Please, he wouldn't have fit in." They laughed. They laughed. I didn't confront them. I didn't make a scene. I boarded my economy seat, silently, while they disappeared into first class, laughing like they hadn't just casually discarded their only son. But something in me cracked wide open on that plane. For the first time in my life, I let the silence between us grow. And I didn't fill it. I didn't check in. I didn't send a postcard. I didn't offer to pay for anything. I just disappeared. And then I watched what happened next. Italy was everything I imagined. Sunlit cobblestone streets, the clink of wine glasses, that buzz of a city soaked in history. I wandered ancient ruins by day and sipped espresso in quiet corners by night. But even as I stood before the Colosseum, all I could think about was that moment in the airport. He wouldn't have fit in. It looped in my head like a cursed ringtone. Not because it was cruel, though, yeah, it was, but because it was so casually cruel. Like my existence wasn't even a consideration. When I got back home, I braced myself. I figured my parents would ask about my trip. Maybe they'd offer a half-hearted apology. But nope. I was barely through the door before the old script picked up. "Hey, sweetheart," my mom said, voice sugary sweet over the phone. "How was your little vacation?" Little vacation, like I'd taken a long weekend to the next town over. "It was great," I said, my voice flat. "Oh, good, good." Then, a beat. "Listen, your father and I were wondering, could you help us out with groceries this month? Things are just so tight." There it was, right on cue. I stared at the ceiling, something inside me buzzing hot. "Groceries," I repeated. "Like the ones you stocked up on after flying first class?" Dead silence. "Danny," my mom said carefully, "that was different. Sarah found a great deal, and we had airline miles." "Just stop," I said, my voice low. "You could afford it. You just didn't think I'd mind not being included." More silence. Not even defensive silence. Just stunned. "We didn't think you'd care," she finally whispered. And that was the moment. The exact second I realized I had been funding a family that didn't even consider me. I wasn't their son. I was their contingency plan. So I did something unthinkable. By our family's standards, I said no. No to the grocery money. No to just this once. No to the endless cycle of guilt and obligation. And for the first time in decades, I felt the weight of them start to lift. Until Sarah called and tried to guilt trip me like a toddler trying out Jedi mind tricks. "You don't have real responsibilities," she said, like I was some bachelor prince living in a penthouse. "You always help. It's what you do." "Not anymore." I hung up. And oh, the silence that followed. It wasn't awkward. It was bliss. The silence lasted exactly 42 hours. Then it happened. The flood. Missed calls, guilt-laced voicemails, long texts that read like melodramatic soap scripts, all of them circling the same drain. "How could you?" From my mom. "Daniel, I don't know what's gotten into you. This isn't okay. We're family. Call me back, please." From my dad. "Son, don't make this harder than it needs to be. Your sister and the kids really need your help right now. Be reasonable." And from Sarah, of course. "Are you seriously ignoring Mom and Dad? Wow. You really think you're better than us now, huh?" But the next message hit different. Mom. "Danny, please, we have a problem. It's about the house." I almost didn't respond. I figured it was another urgent situation that somehow always required my wallet. But something told me to pick up. "What now?" I asked, voice flat as I answered her call. She sighed dramatically. "We didn't want to bother you, but your father and I are a little behind on the mortgage. Just this month. We really need your help to keep things afloat." I leaned against the kitchen counter and laughed. "That's funny. You had no problem affording first-class seats a couple weeks ago." Silence. "It wasn't like that, Danny," she started, scrambling. "Sarah had miles saved. We got a deal. You just didn't think I'd care if you left me out." Again. My voice was ice. Another pause. Then softly, "We didn't think you'd mind." There it was. They hadn't even considered me. Not once. That's when something in me clicked. It wasn't about the money. It never really was. It was about being invisible. A permanent footnote in a family I'd spent years holding together. "No," I said. "I'm not helping you." Her voice turned pleading. "Danny, please. We're your parents." "I know," I said. "But that doesn't mean I have to bankrupt myself emotionally and financially for people who only remember me when they're drowning." 2 days later, Sarah called. I let it go to voicemail at first, but then my curiosity got the better of me. I answered on the third ring. "What do you want, Sarah?" "Oh, so now you're too good to answer your own family?" she snapped. "Mom's freaking out. Dad's pissed. And now I'm stuck dealing with their crap because you decided to go dark." I smirked. "You mean you're finally doing what I've been doing for 10 years? She scoffed. "This is about the trip, isn't it? You're mad we didn't invite you." "No," I said. "It's about finally realizing I was never part of the we to begin with." Her silence told me I was right. And I knew then the real trip wasn't to Italy. It was out of their orbit. After Sarah's dramatic hang-up, I expected the silence to last. But no. Less than 24 hours later, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was my dad. "Dad, come over for dinner Sunday. We need to talk." I stared at the message and almost laughed. "We need to talk" was family code for "we need you to do something, and you're going to say yes because you always do." Not this time. "Me. I'm busy." 60 seconds later, my phone rang. I debated ignoring it, but curiosity got the better of me. I answered. "Daniel," my dad began, voice steady but loaded, like he was trying really hard to sound reasonable. "Enough is enough. You've made your little point, but this is getting ridiculous." "Ridiculous?" I repeated. "You mean like you all laughing in first class while I stood in the economy line?" There was a pause. Then a sigh. "That's not fair. You're twisting things." "Am I?" I said, leaning back on my couch. "Because from where I'm sitting, I'm the only one acting like an adult." "Your mother's been crying," he said sharply, like that was supposed to move me. "She just wants things to go back to normal." Normal. Normal meant me covering bills. Normal meant me fixing every financial mess. Normal meant being remembered only when there was a crisis. I was done with normal. "So do I replied. "But not your version of it." Another pause. I could hear him adjusting in his chair, the creak of old leather. "This is still your family, Daniel. We may have made mistakes, but that doesn't mean you walk away." I bit my tongue, then let out a slow breath. "Dad, why do you think I'm walking away? You didn't even call to say hi after my trip. You didn't check in. You only reach out when you want something." His voice dropped low. "Your sister's struggling. Mark's not happy. Things are bad." I actually laughed. "So now Sarah needs me? That's rich." "Be reasonable," he said, slipping back into that patronizing dad tone. "We raised you better than this." "No," I said. "You raised me to be useful, and I was, for too long, but not anymore." Then came the silence, not the awkward kind, the defeated kind. "So that's it," he finally said. "You're just done?" "You walked away from me first," I said. "Remember the airport?" Then I hung up. And that, without ceremony, without drama, was the last time I ever spoke to my father. I expected more fallout, another flood of messages. Maybe even a surprise ambush at my door from my mother in tears, or Sarah playing the martyr card. But after my final call with Dad, the world went quiet. For the first time in over a decade, there was no one asking me for money. No guilt trips, no frantic texts with half-truths and emergencies that always somehow ended with me footing the bill. It was just silence, and it was glorious. I woke up the next morning without anxiety pounding behind my eyes. I made coffee, my coffee, not the discount blend I used to buy so I could help out more. I sat in my kitchen, watching the steam rise from my overpriced mug like a man who had just been paroled from emotional prison. I didn't check my phone. I didn't need to. But of course, peace never lasts long when your family's falling apart. That afternoon, a new message buzzed through. Not from Mom, not from Dad, not from Sarah, from Kelly, Sarah's best friend. The same Kelly who used to tag me in family group photos I was never in. Kelly. "Hey Danny, I don't know if I should be messaging you, but things are getting bad." I blinked at the screen. Me. "Why are you telling me this?" Kelly. "Because I think you deserve to know what's going on. Sarah's drowning, Mark is furious, and your parents, they're barely holding it together." I stared at the message for a long time, my thumb hovering. I shouldn't have replied. I shouldn't have cared. But then she sent the screenshot. It was from a private group chat, Sarah and her friends. Sarah. "Danny is a selfish idiot. He's just watching us suffer like we deserve it." Sarah. "I had to drain my savings just to keep Mom and Dad in their house, and they're still behind. Mark's losing it." Sarah. "I swear to God, if Danny doesn't come crawling back soon, I don't know what I'll do." I read it 3 times. Crawling back. Like I was the one who walked away from a good thing. Like I was the one who needed them. I laughed, out loud, alone in my apartment. I didn't respond to Kelly. I didn't need to, because the writing was already on the wall. Things were falling apart. Not because I had done anything to them, but because they were finally forced to stand on their own. And it turns out, none of them had legs. Then came the voicemail. "My mom again?" Her voice cracked and desperate. "Danny, we're in trouble, real trouble. The bank, it's foreclosure now. We didn't know it would get this far. We didn't want to scare you before, but please, we need help. Just this one last time." One last time. The same phrase they'd used the first time, the same phrase they'd said every time after, and finally, I felt nothing. I didn't feel rage, I didn't feel sadness, I didn't even feel guilt. I just felt done. So I deleted the message and poured myself another cup of coffee. A week passed, then 2, and just like that, the begging stopped. No more texts, no more voicemails, no more surprise drop-ins. For the first time in years, my phone belonged to me. My time belonged to me. My money belonged to me. There were no sudden guilt trips, no invented crises, no forced family dinners wrapped in obligation. There was only quiet. I'd expected a storm, one last desperate push. But instead, I got something worse. Nothing. At first, I didn't know what to do with the silence. It was eerie, like that calm before a horror movie jump scare. But then, slowly, I started to fill it. I redecorated my apartment. I bought real furniture, not the hand-me-downs and Craigslist steals I'd clung to out of guilt. I finally replaced my old coffee table, the one with the scratch my dad left when he slammed his keys down mid-lecture 5 years ago. Gone. And I traveled again. This time, Japan. A dream I'd shelved for a decade because something more important always came up. Usually, that something had Sarah's name on it. But now, I flew business class, ate ramen in quiet alley shops, visited shrines that made me cry without understanding why. I walked through Tokyo alone and realized, for the first time, I wasn't lonely. Because peace isn't loud. It's quiet mornings and 0 unread messages. It's knowing no one is about to guilt you out of your paycheck. It's walking through a foreign city and feeling like your life actually belongs to you. And that feeling? I wouldn't trade it for the world. Then came the collapse. One night, halfway through rewatching a Studio Ghibli movie on my couch, my phone buzzed with a notification. Instagram. Someone had tagged Sarah in a post. I wasn't following her anymore, but curiosity got the better of me. It was a photo, Sarah and Mark at dinner. Her smile was forced. Mark looked like he was trying to hold it together. The caption read, "Tough times don't last, but tough people do. Hang in there, Sarah." I raised an eyebrow. I clicked on her profile. Gone were the beach trips, the holiday brag posts, the curated perfection of the golden child. All that was left was silence, digital and real. Then another message. This time, a text. Kelly, "Hey, I thought you should know. Sarah and Mark are struggling. They had to sell the house." I stared at it. Me. They'll manage. A beat passed. Kelly, "Danny, they're not managing. Mark's furious. He didn't even know how much your parents relied on you until it all fell on them. Sarah had to use her savings. They're on the edge." For a moment, I felt a flicker of something. Not guilt. Not quite satisfaction either. Just clarity. They had finally run out of ways to pretend. Without me, their system crumbled. The golden illusion collapsed. And in the wreckage, they were being forced to see it all. The favoritism, the manipulation, the dependency they'd always denied. Now Sarah was playing the hero, and it was breaking her. I didn't say anything else. Because I didn't need to. I had already walked away from the fire, and I wasn't going back just because they couldn't handle the smoke. 3 months. That's how long it took for everything to fall apart. Sarah and Mark sold their house. My parents sold theirs too. Downsized into some one-bedroom condo in a forgettable building far from the perfect little suburb they used to brag about. I didn't find out from them, of course. I heard it through a former co-worker of Mark's, who texted me after bumping into my dad at a gas station. "Your father looks tired," he wrote. "He mentioned something about moving. Everything okay?" I almost replied with, "Never better." But I didn't. I had long since blocked my family's numbers. Emails, too. The only glimpses I got into their unraveling were through third parties. Friends of friends tagged photos. The occasional Facebook post Sarah forgot to lock down. And what I saw was a life slowly buckling under the weight of reality. No more big birthday parties. No more matching holiday pajamas. No more family selfies with captions like, "Blessed." Just shadows, tired eyes, fewer smiles, a lot of silence. Meanwhile, I was thriving. I took another trip. Portugal this time. I spent an entire afternoon walking along the cliffs of the Algarve, wind in my hair, watching the sun drop into the sea. I didn't think about them once, not even a flicker of guilt. Not even when I toasted my glass of Vinho Verde at sunset and felt, for the first time in my life, completely whole. Not useful, not necessary, not depended on, just whole. And yet, There was one last thing. One last thread I hadn't cut. A letter. I found it in my mailbox 2 weeks after the Portugal trip. Handwritten, no return address, but I recognized the handwriting instantly. My mother's. The cursive loops were shakier now, messier, but it was her. I stood in my kitchen, envelope in hand, just staring at it. I thought about throwing it out, burning it, leaving it unopened in a drawer until the end of time. Instead, I sat down and read. Danny, if you're reading this, thank you. I wasn't sure you would. I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I know we've hurt you. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But I want to say something I should have said a long time ago. I'm sorry. I'm sorry we took you for granted. I'm sorry we leaned on you so much and never asked how you were doing. I'm sorry we made you feel like you were just there, like you didn't matter unless we needed something. You did matter, Danny. You still do. We just didn't show it. I don't expect you to forgive us. I don't even expect you to write back. But I wanted you to know that we see it now. We see everything. And I think maybe that's the worst part. Knowing it took losing you to finally understand who you really were to this family. Love, Mom. I read it 3 times, folded it, set it on the table. Then I made myself a cup of coffee and stared out the window. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I didn't crumble under a wave of complicated emotions. I just felt still. She said she didn't expect me to write back. She was right. Because sometimes closure doesn't come from reconnecting. Sometimes it comes from realizing you don't need to. My family had finally said the words I'd waited my entire life to hear. But the thing is, I didn't need them anymore. I'd already healed. Not because they apologized, but because I stopped waiting for one. I stopped chasing validation from people who were only ever going to see me as a safety net. I stopped showing up for people who never noticed I was there unless I was fixing something. I stopped being the invisible son, and started being the man I was always meant to be. The one who travels. The one who spends money without guilt. The one who doesn't feel responsible for everyone else's chaos. The one who finally belongs to himself. That was the end of the story. Not dramatic, not explosive. Just quiet. And in that quiet, peace. Real, honest, earned peace. And I didn't owe it to anyone but me. Made it to the end? You're the real one. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other stories, and let's keep calling out the chaos, one post at a time.